Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea. It's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys. We're so happy that you're here today.
Yay! As always, I'm super bubbly and happy. I know we've been having a good couple of weeks, been experiencing some synchronicities. I think all of us have, our listeners and ourselves. So thank you for our messages from our listeners about your synchronicities.
It's super sweet.
Yeah. I had some that I thought were kind of cute, and it was magic-y and witchy kind of related. I was reading this article about 7 ways to do quick magic, which is something I'm always interested in because my life feels like it's busy. I feel like I don't have a lot of time or privacy to really have full blown rituals. So it does have to be kind of a quick thing. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things is just familiarize yourself with herbs and just incorporate that into your life, maybe by picking them and putting them on your altar, drinking them in teas, whatnot. And so I saw on the list those dandelions, and I was like, oh, dandelions are so cute and sweet, and they remind me of childhood, and I really want to get dandelions. When are those in season? And so I Googled on my phone, and we're recording these kind of early, so as of right now it was saying they're not in season, and it was oh, they're not going to be in season until I think, was it May or June or something like that? And so I was like, okay, darn, I got a couple months out to wait. And I was telling my boyfriend, Cameron, oh, we should go get some dandelions next time we go to the graveyard or a park or something. I really want to just harvest some and put them in our seal, our little wax seal we're making.
Yes.
And so he was like, oh,
you guys, great. She's making an Enochian seal. Can you believe this? It's just a little bit different than mine.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm going with Pan vibes and prosperity vibes, love and protection. Those are all the vibes going into this thing. And so I thought dandelions would be good for that. Because I remember somewhere reading about dandelions being good for protection. And so I said that to my boyfriend on the phone. He was like, yeah, we'll definitely do that. And then the next day I wake up and there's all these dandelions in my backyard. And I was like, what? They're here? And I was all excited, just picking them. You know what? Actually, I'm misremembering this. I didn't find them. It was my niece who brought it to my attention. Oh. She runs over to me and she's like, look, for you, Aunt Sharon. And she presents me with a dandelion, and that's also what kind of made it feel so synchronistic, because I'm just oh, thank you, little one, she's bringing me this flower I asked for, kind of thing. But she didn't know that.
It also sounds like you straight up manifested them.
Yes, that's how I felt. And then Cameron that night, he's when I came home after work or whatever, there were all these dandelions in his front yard, just everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
He's you manifested them, baby.
That is awesome.
So I was so excited. Yeah, I felt really happy. And so I kind of plucked a couple, put them in the seal. And then one thing I noticed too is I was trying to pluck 6 of them at night, just as we were doing a ritual last night. And at night they close, and I never realized that before.
Yeah, just like most flowers, they do that.
Oh, you're yeah, that's what flowers do, Sharon?
No. No.
I have a lot to learn when it comes to flowers, and I love being back in Oregon because I can actually enjoy flowers and have a backyard, where living in Texas in an apartment, I didn't really have a patio garden or anything like that, and it was just always so freaking hot. And so I love being in Oregon for the reason that it makes connecting with nature more enjoyable, because I can actually enjoy the outside.
Right. Yeah, I was doing a little bit of that connecting with nature yesterday. We had our first 80-degree day, and so it's I had, oh my gosh, this is so stupid and also fun at the same time, but for probably about 5 years, I've had these specific chairs on my wish list. I've always wanted to get them. And for once, we finally had money that I could spend on myself, because my whole life, well, since I was in my early 20s, I've only been taking care of my kids. But my kids are all adults now, and I finally can start taking care of me. And so I purchased these chairs for myself, and they're the kind of elliptical ones. So you can sit in it, but you can also recline in it.
Oh, nice.
So I was like out there yesterday just playing on my Switch, but
Oh,
also listening to meditation music and grounding at the same time.
that's multitasking right there.
Yeah, I was like, I need a little bit of everything, please.
Yeah, like I want to meditate, but I also don't want to stop playing Animal Crossing.
Right. Right. I mean, I'm so new at it and I'm like a year late, you guys. So
There's never a wrong time or wrong way to play Animal Crossing. That is what's beautiful about it.
this is true.
Yeah.
This is true. It's great.
Yeah, before we hopped on, I was watching this island tour on YouTube, and I was just like, I'm scrapping everything I'm gonna do what this person did. This is amazing. Like, I just love looking at other people's islands, but then I also hate it because you're just like, fuck, mine's not good enough.
I feel like I'm still starting out and I've spent so much time on getting my house together that I'm like not doing enough. But I did put this, like, I'm sorry, this is probably boring everybody, but I did get this little discotheque on the beach.
Oh my god, that's adorable. I love gaming areas of the island. It's so cute.
I was like, I would totally have a rave here.
Yes. I love that. I'm trying to make my island like a witchy community, and so I think what it's really missing are like marketplace stalls. And so I want to start adding like little potion shops more, and like a winery, and like I have a potion shop, but I've never been happy with it. So
oh my gosh, that's so adorable.
one day I'll share my island code with our listeners. If they're ever interested, you can come visit my dream code.
Yeah. I feel like your island is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It took me a lot of building and destroying and building and destroying. Like for me, it's always ongoing because I'm learning a lot. Like about, I feel like, I don't know if the word's developing or landscaping or what you would call it, but like that kind of stuff is not, I don't know, something I'm great at. The only time before this that I've done that kind of stuff in a game was Sims, but I'm mostly decorating pre-made landscapes and pre-made homes. Right. So it's a lot to take on. Yeah,
for sure. So I did have a fun synchronicity that I wanted to share with you.
Yes, please get us back on track.
I know, because I could talk about video games all day long.
Separate podcasts now for Animal Crossing
and movies and TV. Yes. Because I have so many things that I've been watching lately. Yes. So I had to go do a bunch of chores yesterday. As people do, as adults, right? We have chores. So I was really dreading it. Like all week, I feel like I have put this negative connotation on the chores. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I have like 50 million things to do and I have one day to do it all. And what about me time? I'm a little bit selfish, but what about me time? What about grounding? What about all these things that I need to do for me and for my soul? And but anyways, I got in the car and I had to take the freeway, and I'm driving along and I pulled off the freeway, came to a stop sign, and I was listening. You guys, I do listen to country music. I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but I was listening to this love song, and there was a line in there that said something about sometimes we have to go to Walmart, and then I kid you not, a Walmart truck just rolls right on by as the guy says the word Walmart, and I was like, oh my God, okay, I hear you, universe, I hear you. So then it was just one thing right after another. Everything that they said in the song I was seeing with my eyes. So I was like, okay, thank you, this is so beautiful. Thank you for letting me know that you're here, and no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I can have this comfort in knowing that I'm still on track with where I need to be.
Yeah, I think that's really cool when you cannot just get one synchronicity, but it keeps going, and then you're like hyper vigilant, like what is going to happen next? And you just start seeing these signs play out before you.
Right. It was just funny because I felt like they were really trying to get my attention to swerve it from this negative into this positive. That it was like, I was so frustrated, and then I went, oh, that's right, the universe is with me, I can be happy now, and I can know that this is just part of my life plan.
Yeah, it definitely can set yourself up for dread. Like we can, I guess, as humans set ourselves up for dread when we think about chores, work, something you don't want to do, cleaning, whatever it is, a confrontation or just talking to somebody. like you can build it up and stress like all night or lose sleep or just procrastinate if it's something like
Right.
chores. But it is really all about how we want to approach the situation, and sometimes we need extra tools to do it. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll listen to tones if I'm really not wanting to do a chore. I'll just like put some sort of meditation or tones on, and as I drive, and it's like becoming like a spiritual thing. And then by the time you know it, you're just chilled out and relaxed and enjoying it. So there's like a lot of ways I feel like we could help with the mundane with just like little tweaking of your environment or your headspace.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I just feel like I've been on this fast moving train and I can't seem to get off of it. I just need some
every day
time. Yeah.
It is like that whole rat race situation. We're just always going in our little wheel.
Yeah. I'm like, little space, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all my cute magical stories for the week. What about you?
Well, I had that synchronicity. I started watching this TV show called The Nevers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's HBO.
Yeah. What is it about?
So I just watched the first episode. It's a whole lot of magic going on in it. It was so beautiful. It takes place like in the 1800s. And it's basically these girls who, you know how it was in the 1800s. When you're a woman, if you act out of line, they would send you to the mental institution.
Oh, shit. I'm scared.
And so it's about all these women who are standing in line waiting their husbands or their fathers or dropping them off at the mental institution. And then all of a sudden this something, I don't want to give too much away, something comes in that is not quite what you would see in the 1800s. And something happens to all of them that causes them to get these magical powers.
Dun, dun, dun. I'm already invested. I'm like, okay,
yes.
I'm watching it.
So you need to watch it. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to give too much away, but I usually don't like certain period films because I feel like it's too droll and too boring. Mm-hmm. And so this was not like that at all. It was like, oh my gosh, I need more. Why do I only get to watch this one episode? I want them all at once.
Oh, they do it. That's one thing I do hate about HBO is that they make you wait episodically each week or whatever instead of releasing all at once.
Right. Just like our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I remember you were like shooting this all at once. So I was like, no. That's hilarious. So I will watch that. And I'm thinking by the time this airs, probably some of our listeners have watched that. So
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next episode and I am fully invested. I've been thinking about it all week.
Like you add paranormal into it or magical powers into any time, it's gonna spice it up and make it a little more interesting. So
oh yeah.
Okay. I'm so
and a lot of badass women. Yeah. So that's I'm all about those two things together.
Yeah, just good characters, well-rounded women and all that good stuff.
Yeah. And men who support them and not want to put them in a mental institution.
Dude, it's so scary.
Right.
I remember the list that they have hanging up at the Oregon State Hospital Museum, and it was just like menstruation, probably talking out of turn. No, that's an exaggeration. But like it was just any modern day thing, like having emotions, bleeding. I'm like, what? Like I would have definitely been locked up.
Wanting to vote. Mental institution. Yeah, having opinions. Mental institution for you.
Okay, you got anything else to hit me with before we get in today's topic?
I mean, I'm sure there's tons of stuff, but I'd like to save it for another episode because
intrigue.
I know, I know that there's this book that I was talking to you about that I started reading and I want to talk about it so bad, but not quite yet because I haven't finished it.
Okay, we'll wait.
So that'll be something coming up in an after show probably.
Okay. Yay! So today Wendy doesn't even know what I chose to talk about. She decided to make it a reveal for herself and she's been in the dark. So you guys already know.
Yes, I'm excited.
You've read the title of the episode, but here we go. So Wendy, as you know, I chose a place in Washington. That's all you know. I was looking for something paranormal, and what I decided to talk about was Paranormal Pikes Place Market.
Oh my God, I love Pike's Place in Seattle.
Yes.
Oh my God. It's been a while since I've been there, but they do that thing where they throw the fish around. Stanky. It's
Yes.
awesome.
They're like
Yeah.
infamous for having, what is it, fishmongers or whatever you call them, throw
Yeah.
the fish that you order like to each other, I guess, like
Yes. And
across
they
the
yell
aisle.
things out. Yeah. And they're yelling the whole time that they're doing it.
Yes, so very loud, bustling, huge outdoor market. If you've never been, never heard of it. I went as a teenager as well, and I kind of forgot most of it. I think I blocked out everything from childhood,
Oh,
but I have like vague memories of that experience. So I have a little bit of history, I guess, just to start with, just to emphasize like
yeah.
how long this place has been going and why it might be
Mhm.
paranormal, because it has a ton of history and a ton of energy that goes through there. It is considered a National Historic District, and it's kind of known for having fairly priced fresh local foods. It has over 600 vendors and 5 stories of shops. And this has
Wow.
been the longest continually operating market in the United States, and it attracts over 10 million visitors a year. And it started in 1907, so this has been a long time.
Mhm.
And what kind of just like I can't even speak. What decided? No, wrong words. Can't think right now. What caused it to begin, I guess I could say, is a problem with price fixing in the area. Like stuff was just beginning to cost way too high too quickly. So, like for an example, the price of onions went from 10 cents to $1 in a pound, and people were just like outraged, couldn't afford it. And so on August 17th, 1907, 8 farmers parked their wagons at this corner of Pike Street, and more than 2,000 people supposedly showed up to buy from them. And just
Wow.
like their carts were emptied within hours. And this led to the Seattle City Council to establish the public market along the boardwalk, and it's overlooking Seattle's waterfront. It's like a really nice location. And it survived through like the Great Depression, which had actually little impact on the market because it had some of the cheapest food in town. So during this time of the Great Depression, the market even expanded. It was still like a great time. And it kind of made me think of like the pandemic. You might think, oh, what a horrible time to open businesses, but people are doing it and we're still thriving even though we're technically going through this harsh time, you know?
Right, right.
And it's wow, I can't speak today. It is one of the most visited attractions in the city, and like we talked about, it's super bustling. There's street musicians, there's locals, there's tourists, there's all these people like going in and out, and all that kind of cool stuff. So it's got fresh foods of every kind. It's got herbs. It's got lots of flower stalls, arts and crafts and souvenirs. It's home to the first ever Starbucks, which I remember going to and getting some coffee. And nearby is this infamous gum wall. Have you ever heard of the gum wall?
Yes, I've seen the gum wall. I've put gum on the gum wall.
Which nowadays I think is disgusting. So it's like this alleyway covered in gum on both walls. And so I think it just started with like a couple pieces of gum and then slowly just grew and grew and grew. And the city just, I think, we're trying to fight it at first, and then they embraced it because they just couldn't stop it. I did see that a couple of years ago, the city decided to like completely steam wall all of the gum off to start over. They're like, look, you can put it back, but we're just cleaning it, okay, guys? Which I totally get. Like, especially during a pandemic, that is disgusting. Like, chewed up gum.
Like, oh, that's nasty.
Yeah, but as a teenager, I did not care, and no, I definitely had gum on the wall.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So at night, you could kind of think about these markets. It goes from being bustling and loud and all these people, 5 stories, 600 vendors. It turns into more of like a cave situation because Pike's Place is mostly made out of cement and wood. And so sound travels really easily. So people probably think it's really creepy. I'm sure there's like a play of shadows in the area too. And it kind of looks like a maze of these winding halls and stairwells. And apparently there's even like stairways that lead up to just like a blank wall. Like the insides can be a little bit weird and winding. And so there's all these ghosts that are rumored to be everywhere in Pike's Place. And I'll get into the different ghosts that are most reportedly seen, but it's something that's embraced as well. I found out that there's this coffee shop called Ghost Alley Espresso, and I really wanted to go there. I wish I had gone there instead of the first ever Starbucks, but
Right.
they built this place in homage to the ghosts of the area, and they wanted to like pay their respects to all the hauntings. And I guess the baristas at the shop had felt the presence of a man, and one barista was closing up and she saw the apparition of a tall man and a hat just like standing in a doorway. And so full body apparitions are quite common actually in Pike's Place Market with lots of witnesses. And one of the areas of Pike's Place is known as the Down Under. And it's where there's like these underground areas of the market. And so it's a little bit colder down there, and there's a bunch of shops. And one of the most famous ghosts of Pike's Place Market is known as Princess Angeline. And she is a Native American woman, or was, and she was the eldest daughter of Chief Seattle. And her Duwamish name was actually Kiki Soblu. I might have mispronounced that. Forgive me. But the early settlers of Seattle dubbed her a princess. And so that's what she was kind of called during most of her lifetime there. And this was back in like 1855. There was a treaty of Point Elliott, and that required that all the Duwamish Indians were to leave their lands and to go to the reservations. But Princess Angeline ignored that order and remained in her home and in her city. And so she was living in a waterfront cabin of Western Avenue. Hi, Chloe.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. She was living on her cabin, and this was on Western Avenue between Pike and Pine Street. And she was considered by many to be the link that connected the Native Americans of the area to the new settlers of the city, and like this link to the past. And so she spent her days working in the laundry business and made hand-woven baskets to sell in the downtown area. And for over a century, Pike Place Market regulars have reported sightings of her apparition. And they actually mistake her for a live person until she just will disappear into thin air. And that's what's kind of cool about her. Like, she looks completely solid. You'll just see her, she's walking slowly through the market and then just boom, vanishes. So,
like just a solid thing, not even an apparition. She just looks like you and I.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So apparition is more like see-through.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha. So she is most known for being seen wearing a red scarf. And sometimes she'll be having these handmade woven baskets with her. Some people have said, like, oh, I saw this woman over there selling baskets. Where did she go? I wanted to buy one. And people will be like, it's the princess. And so if you ever see a woman like that in Pike's Place, you might want to look twice and be like, okay, I'm going to watch her. Does she disappear into thin air? Or are you just harassing and stalking an old woman? Like,
it's so cool, though.
Yeah.
What a fun story.
Yeah. So during her life, she would get photographed a lot. There was this photographer named Edward Curtis, and he took a lot of pictures of her. So it's really cool that we actually have a lot of photos of her. So if you kind of want to compare, like, people saying, oh, I think I saw this woman, you could easily Google her and be like, yep, that was her. Like, she just has this look about her. She died at the age of 85 on May 31st, 1896. And the settlers gave her a really nice funeral and a really nice burial. They put Princess Angeline's funeral at the Church of Our Lady of God. And she had this casket that was made from a canoe. And it was just like really pretty. And so she's now at Lakeview Cemetery on Capitol Hill. And the market now, Pike's Place Market, is actually built upon her former cabin. And so that might be why she's there all the time. People have seen her again thinking that she was a real person, and she's kind of has the same routine as she did when she was alive. Like, she had this thing that she would do just walking around the area going really slowly, but people describe the ghost as like her feet barely touching the ground as she walks super slowly. Some people say that her colors of her clothes will change colors on you. So sometimes it looks like she's wearing red, but then maybe it looks like her shirt turns to like lavender, blue, or pink. And sometimes she even has like a little ghost counterpart, a little young Indian boy with her. And there's these underground columns down in the underground area. People think that she's by a lot. They say that it's really cold down there. But when I read that, I was like, okay, you're in the underground. What if it's just cold? Yeah,
it is. I've been down there once. It is really cold down in there, and it is really creepy. It's so dark. So, like, the rest of the market is super bright and light. Like, you've got a lot of light coming in. But as soon as you go downstairs, it's like, seriously, like you're in a dungeon. It's so dark down in there.
Yeah, so
Like
like
a cave.
you could easily
Mhm.
imagine cold air, but that's what they say. There's like, oh,
Mhm.
there's cold spots, and people who
Yeah.
take photos, there's like some abnormalities and things like that.
Mhm.
There was or is a Goodwill there. I couldn't quite tell if it was still
Oh.
there or not, but a lot of people see her going to the Goodwill, and I was like, hell yeah,
Oh,
I'd be a ghost going to Goodwill if I
yeah.
could.
Plus, I wonder what it was back then. What was that building that the Goodwill is in now?
Yeah,
What was it then? Yeah.
yeah, I'm not too sure. I think it was
Hmm.
I don't remember. I did look into stuff and how it was changing over the years, but I don't think I know what the Goodwill was built on top of.
Sure. Hmm.
I do have some encounters that I found in a book I was reading. There's a woman who had the Bead Emporium, and this was like in the 80s, 1980s. Her name was Lynn Hancock, and she saw Princess Angeline a lot in her store. Here's a
Mm.
quote from her. One day, an old Indian woman came into the store. She walked back to look at the beads on the wall. After a while, I went back and said, "May I help you?" And she disappeared right in front of me. I closed the
Oh my
store
gosh.
and I went across to the restroom and just stood there. Yeah, that was her thoughts exactly. Oh my gosh. Like, it sounds like she couldn't process it if she just closed her store. And then 8 months later, the Indian woman came back to stare at the wall of beads again. And this time, Lynn kind of forgot. She just, again, thought it was a customer who goes back there. And then she disappears on her again.
She's like, not this lady.
Oh! And then since then, the woman has come into the store about 4 or 5 times. We'll just look at the beads, and I don't bother her. She doesn't bother me. So she's kind of gotten more used to this whole thing. But can you imagine
Yeah.
just like, oh, there's the ghost again. I'm just going to leave her be.
I'd probably be like, you can take a bead next time if you want. Just take one.
Yes, yeah, for sure. You'd be giving her offerings.
Or like put some beads in an envelope or a container and just put Angelina's name on it. Be like, this is for you, and the next time you're here.
Yeah. I think I did read about people leaving bead offerings for a different entity, actually.
Oh.
So there's this boy, Jacob the stable boy, that a lot of people say they see as well. And he gets called to go to the bead store. I guess there's something about shiny beads that like ghosts are into, as well as this old toy store. It's called Merry Tail Toy Store. And there's a little arts and crafts bead zone area. So he'll go in there a lot. And the owners of the bead zone, I guess their names are Ram and Nina, they would see this little boy come in, and he would kind of smell of hay and manure and have like old-timey dress. So that's where they're getting this whole connection to stable boy. And they're like, yeah, before there were labor laws, it was definitely child labor. And in the market, there were stables. So they think that this is like from the past, that he's like coming back. And so the ownership had a string of beads that was going in the inside of the walls. Oh, that's so creepy. I'm reading this and remembering my notes as I go. I'm like, oh no. So the owners, they found a string of beads inside of the walls one day. And so they think that Jacob was taking the beads from the shop and somehow putting them inside of the walls. I think that could also be a rat or a squirrel, but they're thinking that this little ghost boy was super into the beads. And they eventually got a little basket that they put out for him and left like offerings in there of beads. And we're like, here, this is for you. And ever since then, they said they didn't have beads missing as much. So I thought that was really cute.
That is very cute.
So that's very Wendy style to be like, yeah, let's just appease the ghosts.
That's right. Just say hi. Give them what they want.
Yeah. Another ghost said to haunt Pike's Place is Arthur Goodwin. He is the nephew of the original Pike Place market developer, Frank Goodwin. And a lot of people have seen him at the market. He was instrumental in helping Frank continue the development of the market in the early days. So from 1918 to 1941, Arthur held the job of market director. And he had this office that he could like look down at a window and overlook parts of the market. And I think that area is now Goodwin Library, and it's utilized as a meeting room. But if you're in the market and you look up, people have seen Arthur's silhouette in the window. And I'm not sure how they know it's Arthur. I'm assuming that like there's nobody up there at the time, or maybe that they're closed. I'm not really sure. There's also a ghost that no one decided to name. She's just known as the Fat Lady Barber, which
That's sad.
not very politically correct.
Yeah.
But she is lurking about the market at night. So she was a barber, supposedly in 1950s, and she was known to sing her customers to sleep. Like she would sing these soft lullabies. And the rumor is that after they were sleeping, she would start to pickpocket them and go into their
Of
pockets
course.
and take like whatever
Yeah.
cash they had. And so there were some renovations going on the market in the 70s. And I guess she was up there walking around and the area of the floor just gave way and she fell to her death.
Oh my gosh.
I think if that happened, we would have record of her name. Like, why would we just keep calling her Fat Lady Barber?
Yeah. Also, karma.
Not to mention karma. It definitely got you. And I guess maybe that's more karma. You pickpocketed your customers. Now we call you Fat Lady Barber.
Yeah.
So the rumor is that you can like hear lullabies at night of a woman, but there is nobody there. So that's
sort
her.
of sounds like she was doing witchcraft in a way.
Yeah.
Or some sort of siren. So she was like sirening them to sleep, stealing their stuff.
Totally.
Cutting their hair.
And I can't imagine that that's even good for business. Like, at that point, when your repeat customers just know and be like, every time I go, she steals my money. Or afterwards when I left, I couldn't even pay for the haircut. She must have them pay in advance.
Maybe.
I don't know. There's a lot of holes in the story.
Yeah. That's sad.
There's also the swing shift dancer ghost, which is a man who appears on the floor above the Goodwin Library. And apparently there used to be dances that were held there in World War II. And so he's described as being like this dapper dresser, and he's really light on his feet and has like maybe that classic silhouette of like a hat and like, I don't know, like the vest and things like that. And so you could hear him dancing or even see him dancing. One of the other ghosts that kind of has a far out there connection is she's connected to an object, and that would be Madame Nora, who was a psychic reader during her lifetime. And so she was the owner of this place called the Temple of Destiny, and she worked with crystal balls and psychic protection. And when she passed away, it was just known that she inhabited a crystal ball. And this crystal ball got into the hands of a store called Pharaoh's Treasures by an elderly woman who was just like wanting to borrow this crystal ball for a scarab that Pharaoh Treasure had. She's like, look, I got this crystal ball, but I will warn you, Nora's spirit is inside of here, but I want that scarab. Like, you down for a trade? And the shop was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's possessed. We'll take it. And so they've had mediums take a look at it, and they get like weird energy from it, and they can say like, oh yeah, we can read Madame Nora's here. So the magic shop has just had this crystal ball sitting there for forever. And at nighttime, ever since it's been put in the shop, they say that there's been like poltergeist activity. And so stuff will move by itself at night. And this is all said to be because of Madame Nora. I'm a ghost believer, but some of these stories, I'm just like, I don't know why they're so vague. Like, I want more information.
Right.
Do you think they're just like, do you think there's facts here? Or do you think this is just like legends and lore?
I mean, it could be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Could be we've got part of the story and not the whole part.
Definitely.
I mean, especially, that crystal ball, if she chose to be in there, maybe her spirit would be in there. Did you say how she died?
I don't think I have any knowledge of how she died. It just said after her passing, which makes it sound like maybe she was an older woman.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. I think that one's a little more like the most witchy one out of all of them, for sure.
Sure. I would love to go to that magic shop just to check it out.
Yeah. Not sure if it's still there. It might be known as Sheila's Magic Shop now, or Pharaoh's Treasures. I think it's Sheila's Magic Shop.
Okay.
We also have Suspender Man. So there's the structure at 1921 First Avenue, which is now the current home of Kell's Irish Pub, and was the former home of Butterworth and Sons Mortuary. So you know this pub? Is that why it's a
Yes,
yay?
yeah, and we even have one up in Portland.
Oh, okay. So it's a chain.
Yeah.
So this, before it was a mortuary and before it was a pub, it was reportedly a Duwamish tribal burial ground. So this legend gets a little poltergeisty. And witnesses have observed ghosts, sometimes dozens at a time, in the building, including an unnamed man seen in the second-story window known as the Suspender Man. So I guess it's not Duwamish ghosts, or maybe it's a combination.
Right. I mean, considering how much activity has been in that market area, there could be somebody who just really loved it there and wanted to be there. There could be things that we don't really know about going on. So maybe they're just apparitions that are, what are those called? The ones that...
Like residual?
Yeah, it could be just that residual activity.
Yeah,
I mean,
I never thought about mortuaries being haunted just because there's dead bodies inside. And I don't know how the paranormal works. So maybe that would leave an imprint.
it could potentially. I mean, our burial process has changed so much over the years, but I know in the early 1900s, they used to let the body sit sometimes for days before. There were like these religious practices, I think, that made you leave the body for 3 days before you'd embalm it and do all that kind of stuff with it. But I think we do something different now. It's more based on science and less on religion than in the old days.
Did you hear like a kid in the background?
Yes, I think my neighbor's kids are outside.
I was all like, EVP.
No, I think there's an actual kid. I'm sorry, I live in an apartment, so it's a little noisy.
That's okay. Yeah, we've always got dogs and kids and family. It's just, it is what it is. I just am like, still, even though I know that, I'm like, ghost.
I do have one ghost in my house, but it's not a kid.
I don't even know if you told me about this.
No, it's just something I've seen over the past couple of weeks. So go ahead.
Yeah, she'll tell us when she's ready, guys. Okay. So more on the Suspender Man. I guess he wears suspenders. Oh, and a newsboy hat. So there's some more info on him.
Oh, okay.
And he can show you a very clear, convincing photo where he's looking down and you can see a shadow of the hat on his face. Okay, so this guy says he has a photo. We think he was one of the former mortuary employees. Okay, so maybe he just spent a lot of time there in life, and so afterlife. Like we say, we don't know how ghosts work. Is it like time traveling? Is it just an imprint of him from the past still working as a ghost kind of thing in a loop?
Right.
That'd be so
Until
sad.
he gets something straight. Like, I don't know, like my view on the afterlife changes day to day depending on I feel like how I'm feeling, because there's so much about the afterlife that we don't know and some that we do know. And because I see that kind of stuff, like I could say this is what I think it is, but even I don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I won't know until I get there.
Exactly. That's the fun of it. And then we're going to be hopefully podcasting from the other side. That'd be great. We could just be ghosts giving you all the answers through our Ouija board sessions.
I did have a really fun afterlife dream if you want me to tell it to you later after you're done with the research.
Okay. She will tell us her dreams. Awesome.
Yeah.
I just have maybe 2 small other haunted blips here we could talk about really quick and then get into that.
Sweet. So
there's a Greek deli called Mr. D's. It's in the Triangle building, and the owner tells of spirits who are known to fight in a downstairs walk-in freezer. And it's so intense that some of his employees are frightened to actually go in there. And they refuse to go in there, especially alone or at night. So they'll go in at pairs. I can't imagine what that even entails, because what do ghosts that fight doing? Does that mean you're hearing yelling? Are you hearing or seeing stuff move and crash about?
Yeah, if there's 2 ghosts that are fighting with each other, that makes me think residuals. So maybe something happened. I know that there were a lot of, this is going to sound really bad, but in the early 1900s and late 1800s, there were a lot of murders up and down the West Coast. And so, I mean, straight on just, we're getting in a fight and I'm knifing you kind of stuff. So who's to say what happened, and maybe somebody died there.
Oh, for
during that
sure.
fight.
People died there. one of the things that came across in my research when just trying to find weird stuff at Pikes Place or paranormal stuff at Pikes Place was the fact that Ted Bundy liked to pick up his victims at Pikes Place Market. And that is one of the lingering, creepy stories of the past. So I'm just like, ugh, that freaks me out.
I forgot all about Bundy and Pikes Place.
I didn't know that, honestly.
Yeah, I knew that.
But
I forgot.
Yeah, we forgot it. We're just like, let's not.
I pushed it in the back of my mind. I'm like, this podcast isn't about Bundy. And I could probably talk about it for hours.
Yes, yeah. There's also a bookstore which sounds cute. It's called the Shakespeare and Company Bookstore. And the owners would arrive early morning to find the same book off the shelf and on the floor. So brushing it off each day would be placed back on the shelf, only to find it back on the floor again the next morning. Couldn't find what that book was.
I was like, it's really important to know what this book is, people.
Yeah, and what did they decide to do to fix this issue? They destroyed the book.
No.
Why?
There was a message in there, probably. You guys, the spirits are there telling us something. If they're giving you a book, they're trying to give you a message.
I wonder, if it was a really insidious book, like Mein Kampf, maybe? You're just like, I'm done with this shit.
Okay, maybe in that situation, yes. If they were trying to give me Mein Kampf, there's no message in there except for to burn this. And maybe that was the message.
Oh, no, yeah. Maybe they're like, book burning.
They're like, not this book.
So, yeah, was it Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone? Eat, Pray, Love? Right. We need to know.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that can be hard when you're looking online for ghost stories is you find just the same folklore pretty much retold in the same verbiage over and over. So I'm kind of trying to figure out, okay, where's the source of this? But I do think my book I had here, it was Ghost Stories in the Pacific Northwest. I'll link that down below. That's where I was able to find some of those firsthand accounts. There was one that I kind of glossed over, which was with Princess Angeline. There was 3 people who were just at Pikes Place Market, and they were all just talking, and they actually witnessed her walking down. And this guy was a journalist. I forgot where he was a journalist at, but he was like, oh, look at that cute old lady. And then his friends were like, oh, yeah, that's a ghost. And he was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And they're like, yeah, that's the ghost, Princess Angeline. And so he decides to follow Angeline, which is something I would definitely do. I'd be like, okay, let's go. Me too. And they followed her down to Goodwill, and then he's tried to get her attention, and she literally disappeared in front of him, just like she did at the beach shop. And he wrote about it in some Seattle publication. And her story has always lived on and been the most infamous of all the ghosts there. And so I think she's pretty cool.
It sounds like she's all into it. She doesn't care if anybody sees her, but if they say hey or try to interact with her, she's like, oh no, I was trying to mind my own business and you're interacting with me. So she's like, no.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interact. I'm just having my good time. Walking through the market.
She has not allowed white man to bring her down, tell her where to live. This is her land. She's gonna enjoy it, and that's pretty cool that she's stayed with that land for all these years and left her energy there.
I love it. I love that she's just walking around, but she's like, oh, don't try to talk to me. I'm not trying to pick anybody up.
Yeah. I was trying to find a quote from Chief Seattle, but I forgot to write it down. Let me see if I can find it really fast.
Wait, the chief of Seattle or Chief Seattle?
Chief Seattle. There's a chief?
Oh, from the tribe.
Yeah, so that's actually where Seattle gets its name from. And
I did not know that.
Yeah, so people like to say that Princess Angeline is her daughter, or his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. It's so cool.
I apologize.
It's okay. What's not cool is how white man has come in once again. This is what I'm finding, and I've been reading different stuff on history throughout the world, not just here in America, and I am finding that white man predominantly does this over and over again from country to country. Just whatever natives that are different colored than us We murder them and take their land to show our dominance. And it's just so frustrating when I read these things. I'm like, how far back does this go? Like the beginning of time? Why do we have to keep doing this?
Yeah, and I don't really know the history of like reservations, but just reading a little blurb on it makes me uncomfortable. It's like, oh, we just decided that we're gonna like cast this group into a little territory and tell them where to live and give them boundaries. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. That seems fucked up.
Yeah, it's why can't we interconnect? But now I see that our racism just goes back even further than America. So now it's like I'm saddened that this is just something that keeps like following us wherever we go.
I'm just determined to find this quote for you because I know you were going to love it.
I do. I love quotes.
Okay, I think I might have found it.
Okay, good.
But then I open this link and then it shows me like a bazillion of his quotes, so I have to like go through it. I'm like, darn it.
It can't just be simple.
Okay, so here's a quote from Chief Seattle about like his ancestors, his people, and all of that cool stuff. And when the last red man shall have perished from the earth, and his memory among white men shall have become a myth, these shores shall swarm with the invisible dead of my tribe. And when your children's children shall think themselves alone in the field, the store, the shop, upon the highway, or in the silence of the woods, they will not be alone. In all the earth there is no place dedicated to solitude. At night, when the streets of your cities and villages shall be silent, and you think them deserted, they will throng with the returning hosts that once filled and still love this beautiful land. The white man will never be alone. Let him be just and deal kindly with my people, for the dead are not altogether powerless.
Wow. Wow. I actually have chills right now.
I knew you would love that. I was like, oh, I gotta read that to Wendy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is beautiful,
Calm down,
but
Sammy.
sad at the same time.
You're okay. Yes, she's stirred of emotions. Asami,
Oh no.
you're fine.
I'm so sorry because I accidentally muted you. Can you unmute yourself?
Well, it wasn't missing anything, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, cool. I didn't trust her to be quiet, so I just brought my dog
That's
to
okay.
my
She's
lap.
adorable.
Yeah.
She's adorable. I'll try to edit this down a little bit. I haven't been editing, you guys, and I apologize. Like, I'm just throwing it all together. But this time I'll try to take out some of the stuff that we had.
Yes, excuse my unpreparedness and our doggy's barking, but
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a really pretty quote, and it kind of is a cool and comforting thought to think you are never alone if you think about Earth in that sense. Like,
Right.
there has been so many people before you, and they could be
Mhm.
inhabiting that space just because they used to live there and love that space.
Right. Right. And they feel a connection to that part of the land. So I guess in death, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about Native culture, but I know a little bit to know that they really took the afterlife seriously. So just like the Egyptians, they may have a procession. And if he says that they're going to roam that land forever, then they probably are roaming that land.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of go a little more silly and paranormal with this concept, have you heard the concept that Bigfoots could just be ghosts of like ancient, I guess, Neanderthals and things like that?
Yeah, I have. I heard that recently and was like, okay, I could get behind this, but if that's the case, then how are they interacting with certain humans? Where do we get these stories from of them like kidnapping humans or doing things with humans? Because the last time I checked, ghosts do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and making like nests and homes and things like that.
Right.
It kind of explains, oh, they appear and disappear and they can't be found. Like some of that stuff,
Right.
you could be like, oh, that's why.
Sure. I think from what I watched that Bigfoot show, what's it called again? I always forget. I'm so ridiculous.
Bigfoot?
Yes,
Okay.
Expedition Bigfoot. So this last season, they talked about spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, and if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's really good. But this, they talk about how Bigfoot has this cloaking ability, and they actually found video. I mean, they recorded video this season of Bigfoot cloaking himself.
What?
It's pretty much like in night vision, but you can see the outline where it looks like he's there and not there all of a sudden. Like it looks like he goes behind a tree, but apparently there's this thing that animals can do where they can, I mean, there are other animals out that they know about that can use their hair to camouflage them. And so they think that Bigfoot might have this camouflaging ability just like other animals in our current environment.
Oh, so it's like kind of like a lizard, how it can camouflage into its environment, or birds.
Yeah, but make it completely so that if their hair is in a certain way, it doesn't even, our equipment cannot even detect a heat signature.
That's really cool. If that's like a scientific explanation to it.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, they're still testing. I love the show because each year they're going somewhere different, and I feel like I've learned so much about Bigfoot just from this stuff that they've been doing. So
yeah, like they're
tests.
pushing the forefront and kind of continuing that research and not just staying on the same type of things that we hear and know.
Right.
So
and I feel like there's this whole scientific community who has done so much to, I mean, not just this show, but stuff that this show has made me aware of, that there is more of a scientific community out there than I thought that has been researching Bigfoot for years. And so to that scientific community, Bigfoot is a real person. I mean, a real entity. He's not this paranormal entity. They think he's tangible, like he actually exists. And they have found a little bit of DNA evidence and hair follicles and all sorts of things throughout the years, not just foot tracks and not just stories. So they have tangible evidence of him.
I'm going to have to get Discovery Plus so I can watch this new season.
Yes, you should. It's so good.
So,
yeah.
Anything else for today's episode?
Well, I have my dream if you want to hear it.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Yes, tell me your dream.
Yes. Okay, so it's ridiculously funny. But to kind of backtrack and put a little backstory onto it, for years, I've had these dreams, like probably since high school. And I don't know why this is. I have no explanation for it, but I always have this dream where I'm either at an airport or a train station or a bus station. And I know that I can't go on the plane or I can't go certain areas, but I'm at this place and I'm always trying to be like, I can't be here. I can't be here. I can't be here. Well, this time I had this dream that the dream started out where I was like at this party on this beach and there were all these people there and we were just having a good time. Like whatever you could imagine that happens at a party, we were doing it. Oh. And so we were just having a good time. And then Seth Rogen showed up. So I knew it was a dream.
That's awesome.
So he shows up, everybody's getting high, and then he leaves. And then all of a sudden, everybody at the party is like transported from this party to an airport. Like we're 1 minute there and the next second in an airport. And a girl that was standing next to me, she's like, how did we get here? And I was like, oh, we're here. And I was like, I know this means that we've died. Like something must have happened. And then somebody else says, yeah, I think we were poisoned. I was like, Seth Rogen poisoned us. And they're like, no, that's not what happened. We were poisoned from something we ate, but we were all there. And I was like, there were all these little kids with us. And I was like, well, we need to get these kids away from here. Like they need to go back to where they came from. So I was trying to get these kids like through this airport. Now, this airport has no windows. It's just this kind of lit up space with these overhead lights. And I'm trying to get these kids to where a plane might be, because I think if they get on the plane, they can go back to where they came from. So we're rushing very fast to get all these kids on the plane, because it's like we only have a certain amount of time to get them on the plane. So I take them there, we get them all on the plane, and they fly off. And I'm like, phew. And then I was like, just thinking that we needed to get out of the airport. I was like, there's got to be a way to get out of this airport. We need out of here right now. I just felt like this need to get out. And I always, with these recurring dreams about these airports, bus stations, whatever, I always feel like I need to leave or I'm not supposed to be there. And so we're there, and I'm like feeling like walls to see if I can find a panel for us to leave. And finally, a group of us does find an out. And so like we all leave, and all of a sudden we're in this most beautiful space you could ever imagine. It's like I can feel energy just running through my body. It feels warm. It feels happy. It feels amazing. And it looks like, to me anyways, it looked like a downtown area of an old-timey place, like maybe the late 1800s, early 1900s, where maybe they had like tents up, kind of like you were talking, like a Saturday market. So it looked like that. There were like lines and rows of these like little shops almost. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, where are we? Like I couldn't figure it out. And there are all these places serving food, and these people around me are like, I feel like we need to eat the food. I was like, I'm not going to eat any food. Number one, I don't have any money. And number two, I feel like I shouldn't eat the food. And like, I didn't realize I was dreaming. Right. So I didn't realize any of this. And then all of a sudden I'm like walking there, and this is going to sound hilarious because first Seth Rogen was in the dream, and now Patrick Swayze walks up, and he's wearing like the full on outfit that he had in Dirty Dancing, where it was like the black pants and the white shirt. Uh-huh. And I was like, Patrick Swayze, what are you doing here? And I touched him, and like, he felt real to me. Like I touched his chest, and I was like, I know, not in a weird way. I touched his chest, and I was like, you're real? And I was like, what are you doing here? I was like, am I dead? He said, or you're just visiting. Whoa. And then he laughs and he walks away. And I was like, oh my God. And like, as I was taking everything in, trying to take everything in, it started fading and my alarm clock was going off. And I was like, what was that?
That's the worst, when you're in this perfect place and then you wake up and you can't go back.
Right. I'm partially glad I didn't eat the food, though. Like, what would have happened?
Yeah, you're like,
would I even be talking to you right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Patrick Swayze goes just forever dressed as his character from Dirty Dancing.
Right. Like, I felt like I got information from that dream. Like, when I woke up, I wrote it down because I was trying to remember it. Because that's kind of what you're supposed to do. Is I was like, I do not want to lose this. Like all of a sudden I started feeling like I had information that they only have that kind of thing where they can eat once a month or something. They have this, you're in this environment where you can still experience human life or something. I kept hearing that in the back of my mind as I was writing this down.
Weird.
So I was like, is that real? Yeah,
what is this intuition I'm getting? Oh my God.
Right. Where am I at? Yeah.
So that was a weird glimpse into another dimension.
That's what I felt like. Like when I told my daughter about it, she was like, well, Mom, did you almost die? And I was like, I don't know. Hopefully not.
Thankfully you woke up.
Yeah.
I've been having the desire to have prophetic dreams, but I keep just having such deep sleep that I can't remember much.
Your body just needs it.
Yeah, like I get usually 8 hours exactly, and I'm always like super tired and ready for it. And so I'm not like mentally aware of myself at sleep time.
Gotcha. I feel like every time, or once I started doing the research into the Integratron, my dreams have been really intense. So I don't know if it's that meditation that I did or or it's this time period because we're getting closer to May, which is that, what is that? Where the veil is thinnest. It's like the opposite of, it's like the opposite of Samhain, where in May you get that.
Oh, like a spring kind of equinox?
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's some sort of equinox coming. So the veil is kind of thin between, I think, mid-April to mid-May. And I definitely feel it. And I've definitely been seeing things in my home because it's not really my home. I feel like it's just showing itself to me. So maybe it's that.
I just want to ask you questions, but I feel like you don't want me to dig.
I mean, well, what do you want to ask me?
I'm like, what have you been seeing? Tell us.
Well, I told myself that when a veil is thin and if things are trying to show itself to me, I'm not going to have fear. And I've really been working on that for like well over a year. Because even though I've been seeing this stuff my whole life, I still have fear with the paranormal sometimes. And so for me, like I'll be doing something mundane and out of the corner of my eye, I will see a like kind of a shadow person. But I'm doing this new thing where I'm like immediately looking at it, but not being afraid, because I find that when I have the fear, they immediately disappear. But if I release that fear and I just look at it and try to do it, then I start to see its shape, its outline. And then if I can just get that fear to tampen down even more, I might be able to actually see a person, because I can sometimes see an actual full person apparition, so to speak, or I can see the shadow person. So I think for me anyways, can't speak for anybody else, but for me, these shadow people are actually figures, but my brain can, because of my fear, can only see the shadow. That's what I think is going on. And so I'm trying to play with that and work on it to see if I can release more and more of my fears so that I can just see them as if I'm talking to you.
I feel like
and experience that.
You've always been the champion of being like, don't be afraid of ghosts. So to hear that you are having a fear of seeing apparitions, did that come with the move because you were trying to like not invoke ghosts in your new place?
I feel like it, but I feel like I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like I feel like no matter where I'm at, they're going to be here and I need to accept that. And I feel like anybody who can't accept that in my family might not have a choice either. Like they're just going to have to be like, sorry.
I come with this shit.
Yeah, it's just like, this is just it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I go through waves maybe where my human brain just tries to take over and is like, no, you're not seeing that. You're crazy. Or no, you are seeing it. You're amazing. I go back and forth between the two because I don't know if it's that ego and that fear. I feel like it has to do with fear. And potentially my ego too. And that human mindset and conditioning of us always being told. And it's so hard to get rid of it. Like I've done all this shadow work. I've done all these things. I'm trying to accept myself for who I am. But it still keeps coming back every once in a while,
Oh yeah.
And I'm having to start all over again.
Well, I think that's just kind of good probably for people to hear, because we've talked about many times how your power can wax and wane just like the moon. So you don't always have to be this high supreme badass witch all the time. You're going to get exhausted, and paranormal stuff and how you handle it is going to ebb and flow too, especially with the seasons. So that's I think a really good reminder for people, it's okay. It comes in waves.
For sure. And if you ever need anybody to talk to about it, we are here for you.
Yeah. Well, we love hearing your paranormal experiences, your synchronicities. Yeah. We're still taking submissions for topic suggestions. So you guys can send that all to cousinscoven2@gmail.com.
Yes. And if you haven't already, try to sign up for that Patreon. We've been doing videos every 2 weeks. So as an episode drops here, there's another one dropping on the Patreon, and we're doing videos instead of just audio. To
we're
try
gonna
to have a little more fun.
some magic-y time over there. We're gonna get ready to do some rituals. So by the time this airs, they'll already be up there. If you want to join us for some magical circles, divination, and things like that, we're getting a new groove going on our Patreon.
Yeah, and also oracle card readings. I think we did our first one already. It's exciting, and it's a little choppy in the beginning here as we're getting set up, but I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah. So you guys know where to find us. All of our links will be listed down below as we continue season 3 of the Paranormal Pacific Northwest. I'll see you guys next time.
Yes, and may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and join each other. Blessings to all.